Okay. Do it.
What is up? We are live on YouTube. Jake and Luke here from Churchfront answering your questions about worship ministry. So the comments section is live. So as you guys pour onto the live stream, say hello. I see you, Johnny Originals. Thanks for saying hi. Everybody else, as you log on here, we're just going to spend a minute or two updating with you guys about some stuff, and then go ahead and, let us know how things sound. Thanks, Diana, for letting us know audio sounds good. How about Luke? You talk too. Make sure you sound
Hey,
good.
hey, hey. Welcome, guys. What's up?
And please leave your questions. This is a Q&A session, so we will bring the A's only if you guys bring the Q's. Anything about worship ministry, it could be tech related, it could be pastoral related, it could be leading your team. We are recording for the Churchfront podcast, so you can actually find a link to our podcast in the description of this video. I want to encourage you guys, head on over there and go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. We're releasing 2 episodes every single week. Luke is actually the man in charge of producing that on a regular basis. So for sure, go check that out and continue to just let us know where you're from, what you're working on today. More importantly, what questions you have. Because if you don't have any questions, then we're not going to really have much to do here. And Luke and I will continue to go do our work. So there's 19 of you on the stream right now. There's got to be one person who has a question about something. And remember, your questions can help others a lot. So make sure you go ahead and do that. I'm trying to think what else to mention here. If you guys want to check out worshipleaderschool.com, that is where we have all of our training and coaching. That's where we work closely with our clients, and lots of fun stuff is happening behind the scenes. So Luke and I, that's what we do a lot of our days. It's kind of a combination of making content for YouTube, but also working with the students in Worship Leader School, helping them out. So go check out worshipleaderschool.com to learn more. And, you know what, guys? So Luke has been on the Churchfront team. This is kind of new. He's been on the team really since August, and he's helping with creating courses. He's helping with coaching clients, but he's not in Denver. He used to be in Denver. Now he's at Austin. And tell us what you're doing in Austin, Luke, you and your family.
Well, we just moved to Austin, Texas, because my wife took a job at the Austin Stone Community Church. And so they're one church, 5 locations. And so we moved here primarily for that. And I just stayed on board with Churchfront, and I'm working a little bit part-time at Apple right now, selling iPhones like it's going out of style.
Yeah, dude. Are you going to let us in on any Apple secrets of what's coming on? You probably don't even know. Don't they not
I
even tell
don't,
you? They don't even tell you guys until they probably the day of. It's like, hey, we
we
got a new
found out
phone.
about we found out about the AirPods Pro when it dropped on the site. Like, that was how much notification we got. So
Yeah.
it when everybody else found out, like, customers came in and knew before we did.
Yeah.
So it was crazy.
Yep. Awesome. Hey, watch this magical thing. I got a little title on the live stream here, and it says "Ask Your Questions." I don't know.
What?
Can you see that, Luke? Is it in the live stream? Is it working fine?
Where's it supposed to go?
I don't know.
I don't
Wait.
know where it's. Oh yeah, I see it.
Oh, perfect.
Sharp.
And it's
Look at that.
Look at that. It's moving around. I can put it anywhere. I'll put it right over your eyes.
Perfect.
There we
yeah,
go.
just
No.
shield everybody. Look
Okay.
at this. Questions rolling in.
There we go. Got some great questions going on here. Okay. Let's go ahead and start from the top. So this first question comes from Diana Gladney. What advice on color grading do you have for church tech teams? It's not a random question. It's a good one because as we're producing videos, especially maybe broadcasting our worship services, it is definitely a good idea to make sure that it's color graded well. So if you guys have never heard of color grading, it's really the idea where you can take an image like a video images and adjust the color of it. So you can make it have more or less contrast. So the brights are brighter, the darks are darker. You can also adjust the temperature of an image. Really, you can adjust the color however you want. So I would say advice on it. I would try to shoot like whatever camera that you're using to capture like a worship service. I would try to adjust the settings on the camera, so hopefully you don't have to do a lot of color grading in post-production. But when you do need to, I like using Final Cut Pro. That's the software we use to edit and publish everything. You know what, guys? And I'm going to stop right here because I was not recording locally, Luke, and that was the whole point of recording this. So let's go ahead. Let me finish this question. Are you recording locally on your side, Luke?
Yeah, I'm recording locally on my side.
Okay, oh man, that's so frustrating. Let me go ahead and test this real quick. Okay, so Diana, to finish a question, use something like Final Cut Pro, and there's color grading courses out there that could kind of teach you to be an expert at it. But and I can't really go into it's hard to go in depth on like what looks good or what doesn't. I would say go on like lynda.com and just like take a basic color grading course and get the basics down of like how to adjust highlights and shadows in an image, as well as like the color balance and temperature and such.
Yep.
So
subtle. Be subtle when color grading. That's the key.
Yep. Be subtle. Okay, so we're going to pretend that wasn't the first question. And now that I'm recording locally, because guys, if you're just hopping on, we're recording for the Churchfront podcast, which we publish episodes every week. It's the audio format of what we're all about. So definitely go subscribe to it. Just search it in iTunes. It'll come up if you just search Churchfront. If you want to listen along. Okay, now it's time for our first real question of this Q&A, Luke, right? Okay.
Yep.
So Joshua Payne. Hey, big shout out to Mr. Joshua, who this is the same Joshua Payne in Worship Leader School. What's up, dude? So when do you think Proclaim videos will be up? We are working. I'll give you a kind of inside look at our video schedule right now. So today, as of right now, Ashton, our video editor for YouTube, is primarily working on editing the Bethel Tech Tour video we did a couple weeks ago. It's like the biggest video project we've ever done. So that's kind of creating a little bit of backlog in how quickly we're able to produce videos. So I would expect, though, Josh and anybody else wondering, basically Proclaim presentation software. It's awesome. We've been using it for the past month at our church. Number one, we actually wanted to like give it enough time to test it out to make sure it's something that it works well for us. We really like it. It's stable. We know all the little quirks about it, which honestly there aren't really anything about it. There's a few things like we don't prefer about it, but we are going to make a very in-depth review video on Proclaim presentation software very, very soon. So just keep an eye on the YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed and you will see it very soon.
Love it.
All right. What's the next question?
Let's see. Matt Parker says, do you live stream your backing tracks or do you take them out? This is a complex question, I think, because there are some you technically own the tracks if you bought them, but I don't know. Live streaming is a whole different ball game. There's a lot of questions that go into it. I mean, I know you guys have recorded your services. We never live streamed. So have you guys streamed your tracks in the back?
Yeah, we don't live stream. So no is the answer to that question. But when it comes to, I think the more the question though behind that is like, can you, and technically, it's technically not legal, I think, or it's against the terms of service when you purchase backing tracks from companies like Lube Community or Multitracks. It's against the service to actually their terms of service to actually stream those tracks online. Now, are there churches that do that? I'm pretty sure there are. I'm not sure what the consequences are of it. I'm not sure if people are policing it. That's all I'll say. I'm not going to encourage you to go do it because that would be encouraging you to go do something against the terms of service for those tracks. But that's kind of the reality of where we're at right now. It's funny though, if you recorded your own tracks, and this is when I talked to CCLI reps about this, they said if you record your own, you can get the proper licensing to stream those tracks.
Of
So
course.
it's really the whole copyright world. It's just, it's kind of a mess. It's kind of complicated. There's not a lot of straightforward answers for some of these things. It's almost like they just haven't created. It's like the copyright licensing terms of service just hasn't kept up with the times and the reality of how people are actually using these creative assets. So I hope that helps, Matt.
Let's see. Good question, though.
Simon had a question. Looking for digital keyboard for church that has good pad sounds and user-friendly. Our go-to recommendation, this is what we're using in our setup right now. We have a inexpensive MIDI controller keyboard. You can get one from like M Audio, very inexpensive keyboard, and then you attach it to a computer running MainStage. In that case, it has to be a Mac computer and or Ableton Live. And then once you have one of those pieces of software on the computer actually producing the nice pad sound, all the other keyboard sounds, the patches that you want, you can also get a good templates. You can get templates from sundaysounds.com. You can get templates from worshipessentials.com, where you load these templates into MainStage and or Ableton, and then you have amazing worship keyboard sounds, and that's it. I really try to discourage folks from buying your traditional piano keyboards with the built-in sounds.
Unless you're really like a sound designer, then you don't need a workstation. You just need a MIDI keyboard and something that hosts the pad sounds for sure.
Mm-hmm.
James Parrish says, "Hey Jake, what church was that had the Waves LE installed at their church?" Ooh, video.
That was the
Isn't
video
that
this week. Yeah, Adam's video. Adam's church. Did he even say the name of his church in the video? I can't even remember.
I don't know.
Adam, I can't even. I feel bad. We're actually doing a tech tour video at his church. So his name, Adam Baranek, is a worship leader. Just go, you can find him on Facebook or he'll answer any questions. He's on our team as well. Adam, why is your church name not on your Facebook profile? I think it's like Arlington Heights Hills Church. They had the Waves LV1. It's a really amazing mixer. I think it's like this is what the future of mixing is going to look like.
It is legit.
Okay. Does Proclaim work with Ableton Live? Eduardo asks, does Proclaim work with Ableton Live? Yes, it does. It always has for a while. They've had MIDI connectivity with Proclaim. Like you can send it MIDI commands to go to the next slide or do this background or whatever, right? All the same things that ProPresenter can do. But it wasn't until recently that the MIDI mapping automation setup was set up in a way that was optimized for the way that we run tracks and automation at our church. Because I don't know, like maybe I honestly don't think there were a whole lot of like serious Ableton automation users using Proclaim because of this. And here's the thing. So in ProPresenter, when you're queuing slides, you can create MIDI cues for slide 1, slide 2, slide 3, slide 4, slide 5, right? You can also do cues for like next slide, or whatever, but that's not really helpful because if somehow the song gets out of sequence, everything's gonna get jumbled up, and you really want to have the slide number matched with a particular spot in the timeline in your Ableton session, if that makes any sense. So Proclaim didn't have that before. They didn't have those individual slide mappings. And when we get to connect with their team, and they're like, "Hey Jake, try Proclaim," and I heard of other people using it, loving it, not doing automation though. And I was like, I want to use it. It looks great. There's a lot of great functionality. We're going to make videos about it later. You guys will see all this that I'm talking about. But it just wasn't ideal for automation, even though it could do it. But finally, I just got on a call with one of their lead developer, and I just explained what I needed. And he's like, "Oh, okay, let me whip that up." And like 2 days later, he updated the software. So if you guys are Proclaim users and you saw an update, I don't know, I think their updates just kind of like happen in the background, but I was the reason for one of those updates. And he made MIDI mapping ideal. And now it works. We've been using it for like 3 or almost 4 weeks now at Mission Lakewood. The automation works really well with it. So yes, it can do it. It's going to be awesome. Let's see. Audio Fusion systems with the top chat. You can run ProPresenter and Soundcaster on the same Mac. Yes, you can. What is up? Is that Brandon? Is that you with the Audio Fusion Systems account? Thanks for the super chat, bro. How about I just take you to lunch with that now that you're in the Littleton area. And guys, definitely check out Audio Fusion too. They're the ones doing the iPhone in-ear monitoring system. I saw an email from you guys about putting that on Android as well, Brandon. So that's awesome. I'm excited to hear how that's going. Or you guys are like working on doing like a Kickstarter for it or something like that. So I'll let you clarify that in the comments. Luke, what's our next question?
Let's see. It says, hello, Jake. What software do you think is the best for creating animated lyrics on your background? I think from Patricio Palacios. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but I'm assuming you're talking more about animated lyrics when you're talking about your displaying your lyrics for your worship songs. So I know that you can do that now. I don't know how to do that, so I'm only a stagnant lyric guy. I live in the same place.
Yeah. Well, so am I. Like we don't do a lot of complex lyric videos. But if I were to do it, I'm pretty sure After Effects is probably the most common software if you really want to get complicated with like animating the actual text. But check out a recent video we did with about Ezra Cohen. He's a guy. I actually just did a podcast interview with him, and it's this idea where you can create some really creative visuals for worship, and he does it for a lot of big bands and their tours, like Hillsong United right now. Like Ezra's working with them to create the visuals that they use in their worship service. And he has all these cool like bundles and packets and assets you can get from his website for putting not only like the abstract visual stuff, but also even some of the lyric stuff you can put in there. I would always recommend like having somewhere like using like the regular lyrics in ProPresenter or Proclaim or whatever, and overlaying those on top of like some cool background video. Even like you guys, you can check out the video we made about this a couple weeks ago. So the congregation can still read it. It's like easy to read. But what we'll do is like we'll throw a phrase up on the like a more abstract looking phrase once in a while or something like that to make it visually the lyrics kind of stick out or emphasize something. So that's how we do it. I know though, like After Effects, like if you were just like to make a really elaborate lyric video, usually that's the software to do it. I mean, you could use Final Cut and just all it is making a bunch of titles, and you could have some cool transitions in it. But I just think it's better to keep the lyric stuff with ProPresenter or whatever your presentation software is, and then just have the videos kind of running in the background.
Yeah. I think we have got, if we scroll down, we've got Daniel. Somebody really likes that we're using SM7B mics. The best. Yep,
they are very nice mics. I had 2 of them, and then Luke took one to Austin.
I took one. But Daniel Surratt asks, when you have multiple BGVs, background vocals, what tips would you give for mixing to avoid it sounding too praise team, quote unquote? I've got thoughts on this. What are your thoughts?
Ahead. You go first. I talked a lot.
My opinion is that you really nowadays in contemporary Christian music and the songs that we're all listening to, I think you're really only hearing maybe one harmony part for the majority of the song. Maybe there's 2 in addition to the melody. So my suggestion is always just to stay away from 3-part unless it's absolutely necessary and written, and use 3-part like sprinkles on a cupcake. Like they're not necessary, but they add just a little bit of excitement. But you don't need them the whole song. So I think praise teams in the past, like big vocal teams with 5, 6, 7 vocalists across the stage with their, colored pop filters on their microphone. That's when everybody's trying to sing different parts all at once. That's when you start to sound like you're singing straight from the hymnal and can be too praise teamy. But if you really isolate the melody. That's what people are wanting to sing anyway. That's what your congregation is hearing. Make sure that melody is heard, and back on the most dominant harmony part, in the choruses and such. And like I said, if you really need sprinkles, or if you want sprinkles on that song, like add the sprinkles only in specific parts of the song, not the whole time through. So that's my kind of take on praise team vocals.
Yeah, I think from a mixing standpoint, you just turn them down. You just they just can't be loud. It was funny.
Yep.
This is a funny story. One time I was attending at Red Rocks Church in Littleton, and then after the service, I saw Jake Espy was mixing sound, so just went over to say hey to him. We were just talking about some stuff, and then a person comes over to the sound console, and they're like, I can't hear the background vocals, and he's like, yep. And it was just funny because he's just like, he didn't even like explain it or anything, and like, and she's like, well, why are they even there? He's like, well, that's how we mix it. It's like, and she just like couldn't understand it, and it was really kind of socially awkward moment, but it was funny.
I think a lot of people want excitement from more people on stage, but they don't know how to, you want to still mix it correctly.
Yeah, totally. So it's totally, I think so much of this, there's a musical piece of it, how you arrange these parts, but then also a lot of it rests on the sound front of house mixer and how they balance it out. Cornell asked, Jake, can you help out in editing lyrics for a new song? You mean, I'm not really sure what you mean, Cornell. If you mean like sending me lyrics to edit for a new song you're writing, I probably can't. I would ask your pastor about that. If you're talking about a new song and you want to change the lyrics for it, like from someone else does, you can't do that legally. So I just wouldn't do it. So I'm not really sure exactly what you mean there, but you can let us know in the comments. Let's see. What about having monitors hanged instead of being on the floor? Our stage is real small, no space for them there. And that was Ovi asked that question. I would say move towards in-ear monitoring setup. Get rid of floor wedges in general, especially if you have a small stage. Those monitors are creating a lot of sound. It's not gonna help you out sound wise.
And you probably won't be able to hear them any better from above your head. The reason floor wedges are designed the way they are is they shoot up at where the talent is. Mm-hmm. So hanging them is probably going to go a little bit contrary to the design for what their purpose is.
Yep. Woodson asks, easy way to put scriptures on flat screen TV while the pastor is preaching. Proclaim has like the coolest scripture tool inside of it to be able to quickly search and put it up. And they actually have this feature where you think this is cool, Luke, is where it's like contextual scripture verse reading on a screen. So like it's like, it looks like a scrolling book, kind of like when you're like scrolling through YouVersion, and it will highlight like what verse you are on, but you can kind of see the verses above and below it. It's a really neat tool. So that's a really neat way to do it. ProPresenter has a way of doing it, like their little Bible tool, and you can search the verse and it'll auto-generate slides. That works too. But the whole Proclaim feature is like, it's like real-time Bible scrolling and searching. Nice. So it's pretty powerful, especially if it's like really on the fly. Because even in ProPresenter, you got to kind of like make the new document, and it's not like that instant.
Yep. Let's see.
Ask your questions, guys, in the comments. Okay. A couple things to mention. Brandon mentioned from Audio Fusions that they are actually Kickstarter campaign for the Android version will be launching in the next few months. Cool. So you Android users, if you really want Audio Fusion on your phones, in your monitoring through your smartphone, then make sure you join that Kickstarter campaign to make it possible.
Nice. Kickstarter. That's the way to go.
All right, guys, we need to see more questions in the comments.
This is a good one. I'll read the one from Jeremy, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce Uman. But Jeremy says, should my church get an acoustic drum set with a cage and mics or an electronic kit? Which would you prefer and why?
Ooh, it's a good one.
Yeah, Jeremy, this is the age-old debate, right? Are the drums too loud, and what's the way to make sure they're not too loud? Um, First thing I'll say is you should get a good drummer. That's the answer to the question, in my opinion. Is if you got a good drummer, an acoustic drum set will be great, and if you have a good drummer, an electric drum set will be great. So that's kind of the first step for me. But I mean, I think it's going to bring up a whole list of questions. Obviously, your acoustic drum set with a cage, I think, is a heavier financial investment, if I'm not correct, than the electronic kit. I think electronic kits are pretty affordable these days. But I know from my experience, a lot of drummers don't like playing on electronic kits. So you're just going to be battling that for a while if that's going to be the situation. But I think you can teach your drummers to play on either kit. You know, you can teach a drummer to play with brushes or hot rods on an acoustic drum set and really maintain the volume and still mic it and get good signal and stuff like that. We bought a little what's called a Quest Breakbeats kit from Guitar Center at my church plant because we have a really small stage and not enough room to put a cage on the stage. So we bought a Questlove Breakbeats kit that has a small kick drum and a small tom and a small snare, but they're still all acoustic, but they're just way smaller than like a big, full-fledged kit. And that worked really well because even when the drummer was really loud, the kick could only produce so much sound. It was much more shallow and much smaller in diameter, so you didn't have that kind of low end ring in the house, and the snare didn't make huge echoes and stuff. So if you do your research, I think you can find a good acoustic kit that's not massive and is not going to add to kind of noise, but also electronic might be the solution for you. I think it just depends on your room and who your players are and whether they're teachable. And I dig into those questions too.
My preference is acoustic, but you have to be willing to get all the necessary hardware in place for it to sound right and to be able to have control. You can get a good set. I think our set is a Catalina Club like Gretsch. We've got some heartbeat cymbals. Those are Luke, our drummer, more of his personal cymbals. We also have some K custom cymbals, DW hardware. All that adds up to like $2,000, $2,500 just for the drum set, the cymbals, and all that stuff, right? But then you have to like build the sound reinforcement, and for a good I was talking with one of our clients yesterday about this and trying to figure out how to build a good drum shield without dropping $2,000. And we have a video on this. You can search on our YouTube channel, like $500 drum shield. The biggest weakness about it is we don't have a very good lid on top of it. So when I was working through this with our client, I was like, get the same plexiglass front that I showed in the video. It's 6 feet tall. It's like, I think it was like $400, which is really reasonable. And then you can get the lids by Clearsonic, and it's like the industrial wool fiberglass stuff that can really absorb sound going up. And then you can get some industrial wool behind the drum set, and you can get a decent shield set up for less than $1,000 if you go that route. So I'm actually thinking of pulling the trigger on one of the lids, a better lid, because we have the plywood in our drum set, and it just doesn't absorb enough sound. The other thing, though, I'm not like completely opposed to electronic drums or trigger drums. A couple of my friends here in town, both at Lighthouse Church, we did a tech tour video of them. You can check out. They have a set that's fully like triggers. And then another tech tour we did at my other friend's church, Fellowship, South Fellowship. They just got a drum set with triggers, and he was Aaron, the worship leader, was so adamant not going to want to do electric drums. He was so against it. But then when you hear that the quality of them actually is like exactly the same, at least sonically, it's like, oh, okay, it does sound great. But the major thing, the feel is always going to be different. Like no matter what, you just can't get around that. And your drummers kind of have to just be flexible and willing to work with that. So I prefer acoustic, but I wouldn't completely write off some of the options there with triggers. I wish drums look so much better when they don't have to have a shield and stuff in front of them. So just from an aesthetic standpoint, some of these like electric ones that look like real drums, it's cool because nobody can really tell the difference. and you
And if
don't
you
have the
can
sound.
trigger actual sounds, that's better than preloaded. Like I think some of the things that drummers hate is that some of the preloaded songs or sounds, some of the preloaded sounds sound bad. They just sound cheap and not good. But if you can find good samples out there that are, you know, good, then I guess yeah, a trigger is a definite option for you.
Yeah. We got a question here about acoustic guitar pickups from Anna. Do you recommend LR Baggs venue for acoustic guitar? I have a Taylor 214. It's very heavy on the treble. I thought does a 214? I'm not sure. You're not a Taylor guy, Luke, so you don't really know. No,
I've played Taylors before.
but I thought the 214s. Do they not come with like Taylor's regular expression pickup system, whatever it's called?
I think they do, but it's just three knobs. So you have volume, and then I think you have maybe bass and treble or tone and presence. Like it's only three options on what you
Yeah.
can edit.
Because I don't know. I'm not an acoustic guitar expert. I'm not sure how much of the trebly sound she's hearing is from the pickup, or could you just compensate that, in the way you EQ the guitar in your sound system? So I would like maybe boost a little bit of the kind of the low mids, kind of just throwing out there, maybe the 100 hertz range or something like that if you feel like it's too trebly. Yeah, I don't know if it's worth. I personally, I don't think that would solve the issue. Maybe it's just the body of the guitar. That's the sound it makes. That's just the nature of it.
Yeah. Sitka spruce tops are always going to be bright and very present in those upper treble ranges. So you're gonna always kind of have to balance that with some mid EQ boost in there.
Yep. I forgot you worked at a guitar shop, so
It's true.
you do know these things. That's awesome.
Somebody recommended Parish Drum Designs. That is a great drum option for small churches. Great option.
Awesome. I'll have to check that out. How would you go about introducing original worship songs by Afrondo? I think that's how you say your name there. It's always funny to.
It's a good YouTube name.
Yeah, it's a great YouTube name. But with writing new songs, man, I have a podcast, maybe a couple podcast episodes. One in particular I published like earlier this year. I really can't think of the name of the person on my mind, but she had a lot of ideas of like this idea of psalming, which is the idea where you open the book of Psalms and you start playing. You just like start playing a chord progression on your guitar, and then you just start putting the Bible to song. And that's just a good way to kind of start kind of priming the pump and kind of get things going, writing your own worship songs, because it's going to be biblical because you're using the Bible, you're using the book of Psalms. And yeah, it's kind of like what the book of Psalms is there for. I would recommend that. What about you, Luke? What ways would you recommend how you go about doing that?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think especially if you're gonna be writing them for the church, they need to be biblical. So singing the text is really good, and you're gonna have to get through a lot of. I'm assuming that you're like me, and that Afrondo is writing fairly regularly, but you got to get a lot of the bad stuff out before the good comes. And then my one recommendation on introducing it, because you said writing and introducing original worship songs, is do not tell anybody at your church that it is written by you when you introduce it. Sing the song like it's a normal song, because for one, it keeps you humble, and you're not navigating the pride issue on, hey, let's sing this new song I wrote, and then you're hoping to get kind of positive feedback. But sing this song that you wrote, and maybe your team knows that you wrote it, it's an original, but your church doesn't, and then maybe they grasp onto it weeks in a row and they love it, and then hey, this song works for our church. And then somebody asks, you can be like, yeah, I wrote that. But if it fails or if it tanks and the church doesn't dig it, doesn't grasp onto it, then you don't have to disclose that to anybody. So
dude, that's a good idea. Are we laughing at my smiley face?
Oh no, I just laughed at not having to disclose that you wrote a crappy song.
I think that's a good tip though. Like I really like that, to not tell people it's your song, and then people can be like, come up after the service and like, oh, that was an amazing song, and it's like, oh yeah, I wrote it, or they're like, that was a horrible song. Okay, we won't do it anymore. Like, you can easily just kind of pivot depending on how you want to go there.
Yep.
Sorry, I just put this upside down smiley face on the video. I don't know why.
I'm just seeing it.
I saw that it could do emojis, so I wanted to do. Actually, I was inspired by Joe's smiley heart eyes emoji. And then I was like, I want to put emoji in the video, and I did. Okay, question, James Parrish. James, sorry I didn't see this question earlier, and we're not trying to ignore you. I just kind of forgot about it. What in-ear system do you recommend on a budget? I have a P16 and want to wireless transmit to singers. Cheap but quality. All right, here's the thing. And this is another thing I was talking to another client the other day about, was if you have step number one, don't even think about in-ear monitors until you have one of the entry-level digital mixing consoles with the digital stage box. So if you have the X32 with an S16 or S32 Snake, you are going to be ready to go to start setting up your team with the in-ear monitors for less than $50 a person. And here's why. When you get a digital stage box like the S16, you're going to have 8 outputs on that stage box for your monitor mix buses. Or if you have the S32, you have up to 16. You can, if you want to run them all stereo, then divide that number by 2, and if you have 16 XLR outputs, it's really going to be 8 stereo outputs you can use with headphone amps, or you can just use mono headphone amps. But the cheapest way and most reliable way, and it's not going to be wireless, because you can't hear. And you know what, you did say you want wireless, James. I'm sorry, you can't get quality wireless and cheap. Those two things don't come together.
Nope.
I mean, it kind of depends. Your definition of cheap is kind of
inexpensive or more affordable.
You can get the Shure PSM 300s. Those are like the cheapest ones I would go with and actually expect them to work well. I've used those, what was it called? Audio 2000s. And I'm kind of bummed because like I made a video about it and they're like $150-$60 for the system. And then it, just like it went out of stock, so now like you have to buy the bigger systems. It just doesn't sound. I mean, it's like it sounds like it was It sounds like $160 wireless in-ear monitor system, right? Yeah. It works, but it sounds cheap. It's not quality. So I always recommend get a stage box and then get those headphone amps. Get the Behringer PM1 headphone amp. You're gonna go XLR cable from your stage box out to the headphone amp, and then that has like you can plug your headphones directly into it. You can get some KZ headphones, super inexpensive headphones. Again, I don't always recommend the cheapest, because what's going to happen, things are going to break and you're going to spend more money in the long run. So a reliable, inexpensive headphone setup is Behringer PM1 headphone amp with like the Shure SC215 headphones. It's going to last. It's going to sound good. It's going to work well. Don't do wireless in-ears until you're ready to drop, at least like $400 per person who needs it. Because you can take one of these wireless transmitters. Yep. It can have 2 outputs. Usually it's stereo, but you can just make 2 mono outputs and save some money that way.
And wireless systems are not always plug and play, so don't buy wireless systems until you've done your research on the broadband, like the frequency that's in your area, because there's TV signals and cell phone signals and all that stuff comes into play. You need to do your research in order to buy the right product for your area. Otherwise, you're going to buy a product and plug it in, and it's not going to work, and you're going to be like, why did I just spend $400 on this? It's a big wireless systems need to do your research.
Carlos, congrats on the progress you guys are making. He said, just want to thank you for the inspiration. Since I started watching you, our church has transitioned to in-ear monitors, digital console, tracks, and now lyrics and lighting. So good job taking action, Carlos, and not just watching, but actually doing. That is really important. Okay, and then let's continue to move on down the questions. Okay. Nova asks, what digital mixer will you suggest for a church with a seating capacity of 200? I was thinking of PreSonus Studio Live 32S. Also, what speakers do you suggest for mains and monitors? This is a pretty straightforward one. For your case, I do think the PreSonus Studio Live series of consoles is great. My one beef with them is they don't have a great digital audio networking solution, which isn't a huge deal. If you're not going to be running a bunch of tracks or running sound from Ableton or Main Stage for things, it's not a huge deal. I still have their mixing console and stage box, but we just don't use it. I made some videos about it earlier this year. The thing that I like about the X32 ecosystem is it's a very robust ecosystem. Lots of people use it. It's affordable, and it has Dante capability. So that's why I generally do push people towards that instead. So I think the PreSonus beats out the X32 in some certain ways, like a better user interface and all that, but it has a huge weakness in not supporting Dante. And everybody's like, well, they have AVB protocol, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, who cares? Because AVB is practically useless for most scenarios. Like, I spent a whole week researching this stuff, and I even talked to the guys at PreSonus, and I'm like, look, whoever was on your team making that decision to not be able to put the Dante card in, it's ridiculous. They should not be on the team. Anyways, I'm pretty harsh about those things because I just feel like it's such a perfect board except for this one huge flaw that it has with it. And right now, all it's doing, it's sitting in our studio, and we use it for teaching sound courses because it does have a better interface for that than the X32 stuff does. So I guess, Nova, to answer your question, go the X32 route. The thing about the X32 is you can find probably some used cheap ones right now. I think they're going to be refreshing the X32 pretty soon. I heard some rumors about that. So you could buy one now, probably really discounted, or you could wait a few months and they might come out with a brand new one pretty soon. Not really sure. They'll probably hopefully make the hardware better user touchscreen or something like that.
Yeah.
But then again, I mean, it's like you get an iPad and it's it's there. It's like these things, it's becoming less and less about the hardware interface because it's all all these mixers are just glorified audio interfaces.
Yep. David said that. He said we use the XR18, which is super, super cheap for a church of 100 because you use the tablet for mixing, and the XR18 is like the stage box. Because if you don't have a sound guy or whatnot, you can just tablet to mix. And I love that, for the step one of implementing a digital kind of sound system. But I think inevitably you're going to end up wanting to purchase a soundboard when you are getting into digital audio networking and that kind of thing, and running other mixes to other rooms and that kind of thing. So I think inevitably you probably do want to pursue what is the best board for you, and that's, I think Behringer has the most cost, the most affordable solutions for small churches.
Yeah. I have an XR18 on my desk. That's what I'm using for this interface right now. It's really cool. It's kind of overkill for my situation, but I have the app on my computer controlling the gain for this mic, and it's pretty nifty. Nice. I can see how this would be an awesome setup for a lot of churches. So a good question came in here from Joe. What's the most effective way that you guys use to make sure that everyone in the team, they're all spiritually aligned?
It's a great question.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. I mean, number one, I think there's definitely a responsibility where as worship leaders, we need to just know our team members, kind of know what's going on in their life. I don't think we have to be super best friends, but just make sure what's going on. And then I think from a leadership standpoint, we like to have before our rehearsals, just a time to either we start with a prayer, or we'll actually just kind of take a song, and we'll just a section of a song we're going to do, and we'll just kind of jam on it. And one of us worship leaders will pray, and something between the music and praying, that kind of helps us all get in the zone, kind of get aligned, so to speak. I found that pretty helpful. We've been doing that more recently, and it kind of helps us also kind of get used to the work, just being in the moment in terms of musically following each other, or praying, or just kind of letting the Spirit speak through us more spontaneously. So those have been pretty cool ways to just start our rehearsal.
Nice. Yeah, and I think if you want your team to kind of, when I read that you want your team to be spiritually aligned, I think you want people to be on the same page, with the same vision and mission in mind, and also spiritually mature. So I think that comes down to you knowing your team and knowing kind of where they are in their spiritual journey. And then also, then I think the step that comes after that is you need to communicate with them regularly. So to cast vision and to kind of set a mission forward that you guys strive to achieve and be aligned on, you want to communicate that often and frequently. Like be sending emails and be sending texts and using that language of the vision and mission all the time, so that when your team starts to regurgitate some of that, you guys are all speaking the same language and everybody's on the same page of what you're striving for. So you can kind of get your, that's assuming that you're not spending all your time in your office hanging out on your guitar and not talking to your team. Like, to get spiritually aligned, I think you got to communicate with your team regularly.
Yep. And I realized we didn't answer all of Nova's question about the speakers and PA system. Really recommend EV powered speakers. So go to here. I'll just write this in the comments. Let's see, at Nova. Go to sweetwater.com or a website like that, and search EV powered speakers. The 12-inch for the top, and you could get the 18-inch subwoofers. So then you have the powered speakers. These are ones that are pretty inexpensive, and then you don't have to have external amps or anything like that. It's just going to go straight from your mixer. If you're using the XR18 or the X32, straight into the speakers. Someone mentioned, I got to check this out. Thomas Payne. It's a very patriotic.
Ooh, the Wing?
Yeah, he said the Wing. I'm like, I got to look this up.
What?
This is he said just yesterday
No
on their YouTube, X32. Let's see, Behringer.
You're kidding.
10 hours ago. Oh man, what's going on here? Oh man.
No way.
They're like they're just like teasing us. They show like this close up of this really cool touchscreen interface, and it's nothing. Man, this is not helpful, Behringer. Come on. If you guys go to their YouTube channel, you'll see this like cool thing. I mean, it's kind of like, it's not super groundbreaking, right? It's just like they're finally like giving you looks like a better just touchscreen interface, but it's got to be. I'm trying to think I'm looking at all these comments here.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah. Anyways,
so there's no interface overhaul, just a accessory or an extension of the current system,
which kind of makes sense. Like,
yeah,
that's literally the only thing that's like wrong with the X32 still, is just like that dumb screen. It's like, it's everything. Like, I really don't see how they could make the other aspects of the console better. Like, I really don't. And it's just, yeah. But all that said, what other questions do we have? How are we doing on time? Let's see. We're running at about 42 minutes here.
It's 3:55.
Yeah. Let's see. Are there any other good questions?
Somebody is begging us to talk about RF antennas. I guess we missed this.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know like what they mean. I mean,
if you are fighting for clarity in your wireless signal and you use wireless mics and that kind of thing in your worship services, then you absolutely do need antennas to distribute those signals correctly. Otherwise, they're all just competing via the internal antennas. So you either most rack mountable receiver units come with antennas, but then you can get extension antennas that are longer, and then you can also buy the Shure. I think they call them like shark fins that stand up in the back of your room, and those help kind of cleanly distribute those so that everybody stays. That's about all I know, is that if you're using wireless, microphones, it's something you should have. If you're using like more than 3, I think is what they suggest. But I also am not an expert. Like I said, wireless technology it's a big book.
Yeah. Yep. I'm not an expert at it. Yeah, I know you can use those. Are they called Tena amplifiers or whatever you're talking about with the shark fins?
Yeah.
Those help. We don't use a lot of wireless at our church, so I'm just not not an expert at it. Max asked about if I use the iConnectivity hardware yet for MIDI automation. I do. We still use iConnectivity because it's worked perfectly. It's really a seamless experience because we literally just plug one cable into each computer, and there we go. Our MIDI automation's ready to go every Sunday. So Bohm is great, and I think it's great for a lot of people to start using if you don't want to get the iConnectivity stuff. iConnectivity, I feel like, is like high end, very reliable, but it's going to cost you more money. Bohm right now is showing reliability, and it's worth a try to get into MIDI automation. The built-in MIDI app on the Mac, though, is like, it's free, but it comes with Macs, but it's not cross-platform. I mean, you can get this like RTP MIDI thing for Windows, but if you get Bohm, it can work on Macs and PCs, and it's really easy to set up, and so far it's been reliable. So just keep an eye on that video we made. We'll let you know if anything changes on that. Josh asked about QSC versus EV powered speakers. If you have the money, I would get QSC. I think they are higher quality speakers. So definitely, yeah, if you have the funds for it, pay for those. And then Kinsey, what typically would cause a female vocalist to sound muddy and heavy through the system when singing, even when high and powerful? I think that's going to be an EQ issue in terms of like lots of that kind of low mids can cause that muddiness, or sometimes it's like just the mids. I don't even know exactly. I'm looking at my EQ band on my X18 mixer, and I can't remember the exact frequency range, but generally we'll kind of scoop out maybe in the, what frequency am I here? Maybe like the 400 hertz range. We'll do like a really subtle, maybe three decibel, dip in the gain for that frequency band in the low mid range, and that'll really help kind of clean up. I mean, maybe it has to be moved lower down to like the 100 or 200 hertz range, but usually, Kinsey, that's where I think you'll find most of that muddy. So instead of boosting the highs, just go ahead and just cut kind of that low mid range a little bit. You don't want to cut out too much to completely take out the body of the voice, but that'll often do it. I do that on male vocals as well, especially female vocals, but it's kind of that maybe 200 to 500 range in frequencies.
And you could probably coach her a little bit to sing kind of more forward and bright, and not, sometimes if there's muddiness if she's really powerful, she could just be singing more towards the back of her throat. I think just encourage her to smile a little bit and sing more bright and more forward. That could help, not need to cut as much, but actually be able to just kind of leave the natural EQ without having to like lean too heavily on EQ. You can coach her a little bit.
Yep. Chris asks, should contract musicians be on rotation, or should they be expected to play every Sunday? I think it really depends. Like, what's your budget for contract musicians? What do you prefer? Do you want to have the same guy every week? I think it's great to have rotations. We rotate between a contract sound person and a volunteer sound person at our church, and it works out really well. The contract person is obviously a bit more experienced with sound and really helps us kind of keep that good, consistent mix and sets the volunteer up for success, and they just rotate on and off. But if you can go ahead, I don't know what dollar.
It's $1.
I don't know what that
Budget
means.
is $1.
That's your budget? Yeah. Well, it's going to be a very cheap contract person. I'm not
I would
sure
say
how helpful they're gonna
definitely
be.
rotation.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be on rotation for $1 though.
Yeah, for sure. Oh,
150
a month. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, you're lucky if you get, it depends where you are, but for 150 a month, it really kind of depends. Like you'll be lucky to get someone to come one week a month for that amount. So kind of really depends on the experience, how much you're negotiated with them. I think ideally with sound, like it would be cool to have someone like twice a month. Because generally most of the people who serve, I like to shoot for like twice a month, for them to be serving on the team. So that means like at least 2 different people in each spot, and works pretty well.
Yep.
All right, man. I think that is it for today's live Q&A. Unless if you had any other questions.
No, these are great questions. Thanks for everybody who sent them in.
Yep. Thanks, guys, for hopping on the stream. Go and subscribe to the Churchfront podcast. Go to churchfront.com/podcast. And then you can listen to this. Well, you don't have to listen to this if you're already here today, but there's lots of other great episodes and interviews we've got going there. And go check out churchfront.com. If you guys want to work with us, there's a link there. You can apply to join our program at worshipleaderschool.com. So appreciate you. And I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. Have a fantastic rest of your day.